Well, I probably should have gotten all dressed up and extra fancy, but confession, it's the middle of the night, and confession number 2, I don't own anything fancy. Sorry, not a thing. I don't go anywhere. I'm a home person. I literally do not go anywhere. We haven't been out to dinner in over 10 years. Who can afford it? But what's the point? It's better just to stay home. Maybe buy a fancy piece of meat or something like that for dinner, but we don't go out. But anyways, I'm off the track. So, anyways, welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina, Kristina. This is where I read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, no fancy stuff going on here. And what you see is what you get. That was an old Roots Web editing program. So, in deadly fashion, I wish I had some fashions to parade around in or some clip art for you. But no, it's just me. I've read the book. I'm here to report to you. This is book 10 in the series. I had some pet peeves in the beginning. If you go watch the previous videos, I've done them all. I should really gather them up. But Prudence Mackenzie, her father is deceased. She was a judge. And she has just recently passed the bar. And she's working with Joffrey Hunty in an investigation business. And Josiah is their secretary and friend. And Lydia is a friend of hers. I don't think we see too much of her. And Denny is a cab driver. And Regina Healy is the dressmaker, although she's known as Madame Regina. Stephen Fallon and Pat Corcoran are the 2 cops, and they are crooked cops. And I will spoil. No one gets arrested. Well, someone gets arrested, but it's an innocent party that gets arrested. No guilty parties are arrested in this book. So Prudence and Jeffrey are going to get married. It's the talk of the town. And Madame Regina is making her dress, extra special dress. And with Prudence wearing the gown, it's going to get notoriety in the newspaper, and it's going to help Madame Regina's business grow. And Prudence is also helping Madame Regina with this other person get situated in the society. So she's got a little tutoring going on. Prudence has got some tutoring. So this lady is doing her dress, this Madame Regina, and she goes one day for fitting, and they walk in, and one of Madame's people, one of her seamstresses, is not only deceased, but someone took the extra special time and attention to cut up Prudence's dress. And it wasn't, the reason for the cutting up of the dress was revenge for, let's call it B, because the whole time you're thinking it's revenge A, you're thinking that the reason the dress was cut up was a woman scorned, maybe, but it turns out to be reason B, and you'll have to read the book for that one. It's revealed at the very, very end. But and Joffrey and Amos Lang is a former Pinkerton who also helps Joffrey and Prudence with their investigations. And Amos discovers this guy, Nicholas Anthony, and it kept confusing me because in some parts of the book he was Nichols, in some part of the books it was Anthony. It was driving me bonkers! But anyways, so Amos discovers this guy who was investigating. He was looking to get out of town really quickly because he assumed that because he knew stuff, the person that did the murder might also murder him. But poor Nicholas, Mr. Anthony, two first names, never made it out of town fast enough. He gets murdered within 24 hours of seeing Prudence and Jeffrey. If he had talked a little more, he might, maybe if he had run a little faster, but he gets murdered too. So we're investigating the murder of this lady, that the seamstress lady that worked for Madame Regina. And we're also introduced to another seamstress lady who's trying to up and come, was also up and coming from Paris. And there seems to be this, we're spending a lot of time with this, trying to investigate the seamstress, but Joffrey's past comes back to haunt him. This woman that he had a childhood with, who the families always, it wasn't actually said, it was understood that they would marry, but Joffrey's ended up pursuing a career out of in New York and not in the South, so he never actually married the young lady. And the young lady had a liaison, and she ended up getting with child, and she needed to marry instantly, and Joffrey was supposed to be the one that was to marry her instantly, and he didn't, and it led to a cataclysmic events in this young lady's life. And she is now in New York, and she is after Joffrey. She's going to ruin his life because Joffrey belongs to her and no one else. So that's like a subplot, because in the beginning you're thinking she did the seamstress, she did the dress, she did this, but she did kill her first husband, but no one ever proved it. He was killed by a black widow spider that was just supposedly planted in his bed, because they had separate bedrooms. So she got rid of him real quick with the spider. And it was always suspected, but no one could ever prove that she actually did it. So this woman's in town and she's scorned. And she's going after Joffrey, and he comes to visit. What are you doing in town? You shouldn't be. Blah, 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 blah. And she manipulates him so well that the expert Joffrey doesn't see it. And she ends up calling the police and go, "Oh, he did this. He offered to kill me, and he did this, and I'm just a defenseless female." And the two crooked cops arrest Mr. Joffrey, and they don't tell anybody they did it. And they don't put it on any official logs anywhere. They just beat the life out of him, and they put him in the tombs, which back in the days was unsanitary, and you could catch the flu. You could die within 24 hours. It was the diseases in the tombs and the sewage, and it was just, ugh. So they lock him away there, and eventually Prudence and the gang rescue him. But and we're waiting for retaliation from the two cops, but they never put it on the books. It was never logged anywhere. He was never accused of anything. He was never formally arrested for anything. So there's no record of him ever actually being there. And then they had this one judge that was going to stick up for them, but the nasty cops found out the judge's little secret, so the judge had to back down because he didn't want certain people knowing his little secret. So everybody has little secrets in this book. They all have ulterior motives. And so, and I'm screaming at Joffrey. I'm like, why are you not telling her about Inez? Why are you not telling about Inez? You visited this time, then you visited this time, and then you visited this time, and you planned on telling Prudence, and then you didn't tell Prudence, and this is what happens. And then during all this chaos, when Joffrey's in jail or in the tombs or whatever, she goes around and pretends to be the secretary and cancels flowers and cancels the church and cancels this and cancels that. So then they have to run around going, this was not authorized by us. This was not us. We did not do this. Please reinstate all these plans. So, impersonating a secretary for a company that she didn't work for. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. But this woman has some screw looses, and some people she's working with has some screw looses. So in the end of it, four people are dead, and 0 people are arrested. So there really isn't um a summation. There really isn't a wrap up to the case. It kind of just ends. And then we get the wedding, which is cool. I'm happy we got to see the wedding. I'm happy that the wedding was on stage, as one of my authors says, and not book ending at when it ends and then told in the next book how great the wedding was. I'm glad we actually got to be there for the wedding and experience the wedding firsthand on stage. But I'm also disappointed that there was no official wrap up of the case, a conclusional type situation. It just kind of ended with another death, and that was like there was no massive wrap up. So that was kind of a little on the disappointing side, but it kind of everybody had their own motives. So you don't get the big confessional at the end. You don't get the big tell all, the big arrest. There's none of that. The book just ends. But then we get the wedding. So that's, that kind of made up for it. But like I said, it just, everybody, their motives are made clear, but people are killed, and that's just how it ends. And there's no arrest because the bad guys are the cops in this particular book. I'm sort of kind of missing the Victoria Thompson type thing. If you haven't seen all my videos on that and the extra special Mrs. Ellsworth, please go and do those. I'll have to try and make a list for those. We'll see what happens. But if you could please hit like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. I've kind of fallen behind in my videos because I was sick for a while. And if you could please watch Star Trek Voyager recaps on Fridays, and If Then Friday afternoons, and of course Flashback Monday. If you haven't gone back and watched all the Romantic Time Book Review magazine reviews from 2007 through 2016, and then we're coming forward a little bit with monthly new releases starting in 2016 going through 2017-18. I have to figure out something when we catch up to ourselves on Fridays. We'll see what happens. Have a good one.